हरि ओम। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शांति शांति। समस्त जन कल्याणी निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ओम श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पातंजलि प्रांजलिना नतोस्मि। हरि ओम। We are in the second sadhana pad of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, trying to see what is the impact of faithful observance of yama and niyama. Every yama and niyama which is observed scrupulously opens the door, opens the vista of unknown powers. Mind well, a humongous amount of power is existing in ourselves. We are never aware of it because we are using these powers for very mundane purposes. The Shakti that resides within us, the Shakti that has the capacity to overturn the huge creation, is residing in us. We are not aware of it. The reason we are not aware is these powers remain hidden in us. So that is why when yama and niyama is observed in a right manner, the energy, the urja, the shakti that is misdirected in a day-to-day encounters with this world gets inwardly directed and becomes a reservoir of a great force. Presently, the energy in us makes us possible to interact with the world, but it is not possible to interact with the inner world, which is a much larger world compared to the present world of ours, simply because the energy is dissipated whenever we interact with the outside things. In a very careful manner, yogi dissociates himself from the outside indulgence of the senses and brings the energy from outside, directs it inside towards the Antarvishwa. The Bahya Vishwa is a very, very small part of us. The Antarvishwa is a huge thing. And that is why Yama and Niyama, when performed scrupulously, it is nothing else but channelizing our energies way back into the inner world from the outer world. And one of the yamas known as asteya, when it is practiced properly, asteya meaning not having any covetousness about the objects in the outer world, naturally to such a person, the inner world throws best of the best thing. Ratnani jato jato utkrishta vastuni. Person becomes eligible for access to the best of the things in the outer world. Similarly, in case of brahmacharya, he gets into a new level of energy. Brahmacharya pratishtayam virya labhaha. The word virya has been misunderstood and misquoted because of our wrong impression about this word. The virya is equated with semen, which is not the case. The viryata is the energy that is available for application. The kinetic aspect of energy is virya. Virata, demonstrable aspect of energy. Because if you say virya as a semen, that excludes then the women from it, which cannot be but a ridiculous aspect of interpretation. So the energy, the urja that is there in the sum total in my body, which is essentially synthesized by the pranas. For the energy to be synthesized within my system, the Lord has given me different systems in the body. One of them is digestive system, and one of them is respiratory system. The digestive and the respiratory system, in their end result, they create molecules of energy. The molecule of energy known to us through science is the adenosine triphosphate, the ATP. Normally we call it as glucose or oxygen, etc. But everything when synthesized finally at a cellular level, a cell is not able to digest the food that we eat. A cell of the body requires manufacturing of a special energy molecule called adenosine triphosphate, which normally is manufactured in a cell organ called mitochondria. And this is the net result of the respiration that we do. Such each individual cells out of the total 35 to 37 billion cells of the body continuously are producing the energy in the form of adenosine triphosphate, and these molecules are constantly being utilized by the cells for cellular function, and that is how the body is functioning. But mind well, the karmendriyas, the arms, the hands, the feet, the anal function, all the karmendriyas are utilizing much lesser the energy because they are only meant for action. But the jnanendriyas, and amongst the jnanendriyas, the ultimate indriya, which is the sixth indriya called mind, which in rough translation is called brain. Brain is a system, brain is an apparatus where the processing takes place. The intangible mind, the antakarna, which is not demonstrable anatomically, works through the brain, and that is how this small brain, which comprises about 2% of the body weight, consumes 20% of the body's energy. And mind well, we are still not counting about the rest of the systems, nervous systems, such as sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, which deals with our apprehension, anxiety, flight, fright, and fear. So brahmacharya is not only the incontinence from sex as is normally presumed, it is incontinence from aligning our jnanendriyas with the objects in the world, not more so physically, but more so mentally. A sexual abstinence by not having a physical sex is a completely inferior variety of brahmacharya, because the incontinence truly has to come by shedding the thoughts about the sex in the mind. We all will be surprised by the medical investigation of a team called Terry Fisher's team. It's a team which worked on the psychological aspects of sex and have conclusively demonstrated that on an average, a man thinks 19 times in a day about sex, while a woman thinks about 10 times in a sex. And thinks means the thoughts about the sex. And mind well, these are not thoughts about the word sex, but these are the thoughts about the nudity, the eroticity, etc. What it means is the deep samskaras that we have in our mind, majority of them and the most powerful of them are coming from the sexual interaction, because that is the highest pleasure that a man can ever think of. We haven't gone beyond the boundaries of Maithunananda. And that is why, being the highest pleasure that we know of, we always remember that pleasure. And that is the reason why the sexual thoughts predominate in our mind. We may not express it, we may not act upon it, but in Yoga Shastra, it is immaterial whether you have acted or not upon it. What matters is whether you have thought about it. And every thought of that leads to enormous amount of consumption of energy. As I already told, a 2% weight, a 2% contribution is the weight by weight contribution by the brain, but it consumes 20% of the oxygen of the body. That is because the neurons, when they fire, the multiple neurons, billions of them are constantly firing in the brain in the form of thinking. When you think and think and think, sometimes they get fatigued and you say, I'm completely dazzled by my thinking, I need to sleep. Mind well, sleep is the only thing given by God to us which corrects this imbalance about the neuronal firing and resets the entire order of the brain for us to become refreshed in the morning and again start our work for the day. So more the neuronal firing, more the consumption of oxygen and the adenosine triphosphate, which is the energy source, and more the fatigue that comes after that. What it means in the language of Yoga Shastra is the energy sum total of the body called Ojas gets constantly utilized, and the vigor and the vitality, the demonstrable aspect of the Ojas, which is called Virya, is dissipated. But those who consciously think about this loss of energy, Bhagavad Gita tells us, Gatam na shocham, nanu shochanti panditaha. Because if you think about what is not productive, it just consumes the energy in the body and the mind. Every thought has to be carefully selected before thinking. Is it worth thinking what I'm thinking? What will happen after 10 years to my child is the most useless thought we carry with us. And we are constantly brooding in the past or constantly projecting in the future, which Gurudeva emphasizes in n number of lectures and commentaries as a maximum dissipation of energy. It is the ojas that is wasted away. So if by thinking about other things, we are wasting our energy, let's say for time X, then when we think about the sex, because of the intensity of the thought, because of the intense visualization, the dissipation of energy is 100x, 100 times more. And that is the reason why usually brahmacharya is associated with sexual abstinence. But it is not alone sexual abstinence, but is abstinence from the thoughts which provoke the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system. And such people who are able to divert their thoughts away from not only sex, but generally sensual enjoyments, are able to conserve the energy. And this conserved energy then starts getting utilized for the higher functions. And the immediate thing is such a person has viryata in him. And that is why we pray before starting our class in the Shanti Mantra, Sahaviryam Karavavahe. Lord, let all of us who are attending this satsanga, let all be infused with the energy, the ojas, because the ojas that is going to make the work for understanding, making the intellect bright and sharper. And that is why Brahmacharya Pratishtayam Viryalabhaha. So that is why those who are able to conserve the energy, the ojas, they are able to take it away from the plexus, away from the sexual thoughts, and then take this ojas upward. This is called urdhvareta, the one who allows or lets the sexual energy move upwards towards the upper chakras. That is why most of the margas that are there in our scripture, they emphasize upon brahmacharya. Every thought dissipates energy, and the thought that dissipates the energy most is the sexual thoughts. That is why lesser the thoughts, lesser the sexual thoughts, higher the energy in the person. He radiates. Swami Vivekananda, many people found that he had a golden hue on his body. Gurudeva, when we look at his face, we see a luster. We see a kind of a shine there, which is perceptible by our antakarana. And that shine is nothing else but the ojas that is exuding. The aura normally which is depicted around the head of any deity and is also seen around the head of a Jivan Mukta. A similar aura was reported by the reporters of the magazine Life from America around Gandhiji's face when she came, both of them came, two ladies for the interview of Gandhiji. This aura, which radiates for a few centimeters around your head, comes essentially because of the exodus of the energy from such a person. This strength of energy, the virya, is so strong with such a celibate Jivan Mukta that it affects the energy of people around him. And that is the reason why many people used to ask Gurudeva that in your presence we are able to understand whatever you speak. But when we try to study alone, it doesn't happen. That's simply because the ojas, which is so full in the Jivan Mukta's body, overflows around him to a certain extent. And that is precisely why it is called ojas. So Brahmacharya Pratishtayam Viryalabhaha. This is the fourth yama. And then the fifth yama is aparigraha. Aparigraha sthairye janma kathanta sambodha. Janma kathanta sambodha. Aparigraha sthairye. Non-accumulation of objects by a yogi gives him the power to remember the past lives. Mind well, this is little something difficult to understand. How can a not accumulating the objects give you a power to remember the past? So that is why we need to understand, first of all, is it true? It is not only true and factual, but there are many examples with the saintly people who had remembered all the past. Vivekananda has emphatically talked about remembering the past lives. And there was a great saint during Tukaram's time, a lady called Bahinabai. This lady was not only disciple of Tukaram Maharaj, but also a yogi of a very high order. She remembered 13 of her lives, not only remembered, but spoke about it in a poetic form and told this to her own son, who was her disciple, who was also a Jivan Mukta. I've gone through this poetry, and to the precision of in which house she was born, in which place she was born, who was her father, who was her mother, how many cows she had at that point of time, and what was the relation between she and her son during that birth. Everything she spoke about. This happens because when aparigraha is established, koham asam, who I was, katham aham asam, how I was, kim swida idam, what is this, katham swida idam, how is this, ke va bhavishyamaha, what we will be, katham va bhavishyamaha, how we will be. All these aspects become known to him. Reason is the curtain that is drawn upon our past life and upon our future is because of the ignorance that we are carrying, the avidya that we are carrying. The aparigraha is a person, a yogi, is completely devoid of any desire about this world. Such a pure mind, such a pure chitta, like a switch of the light, opens up the vistas of the past. Remember our life, the current janma is we are in the drawing hall and all other rooms are closed to us. Our previous lives, which are the other rooms of the house, are closed for us, but the doors keep opening for a yogi, and he sees, he comes to know all the past life as clear as the current life. The way we remember from childhood till now, we remember few of the past births. It can be as before as you can go. Remember when Bhishmacharya asked Sri Krishna, why I am on the Sharapanjara, why I am on the arrows, why there is so much of pain that is inflicted upon me before giving up my body. And it was Lord Vasudeva who told him as to what he did, how he tortured a lizard many births back. How did Vasudeva came to know about it? Because he is Varishtha Yogi. Another reason why aparigraha is associated with the past life memories is, what is aparigraha? Not to covet anything, not to collect anything, not to own anything, not to develop ownership of anything. When this is done, you also do away with the ownership of samskaras. It is not only essential to be minimalistic about what you are carrying, having only one dress, one copy, one something. That is all a physical aspect, sir. That is not going to be so important for a yogi. For a yogi, what is important is not to accumulate the samskaras. That is the real aparigraha. As and when you start shedding the samskaras, when you see something, immediately you feel either good or bad. Look at our daily life. Whatever comes across us, either it pleases us or it displeases us. That is called samskara. Because of the purva anubhava, the smriti becomes alive and we either like a thing or don't like a thing. Let me give you an example. We come across a certain person, certain community, certain religion person, certain person doing a certain kind of a prayer, and immediately to our mind a thought comes, oh, all these are backward people. Dislike. You come across your child, he comes running to you, and you feel, so beautiful my child is. The likes and the dislikes, these are all coming from the samskaras. Recalling the samskaras with the help of smriti leads to likes and dislikes. But because we have collected humongous amount of samskara, the parigraha of samskaras over a number of births, we are not able to know about our past and future. However, if you are able to do away with these samskaras, then the mind becomes crystal clear, and a crystal which is completely clear and pure and pristine can reflect the light of consciousness freely. And in that light, the yogi is able to see both the past and the future. And that is how we see many Jivan Muktas in their stories talking about the future. That shall not happen. It will not happen. You shall get Ram Mandir, wrote Swamiji. Now the question is, it has to come true because he could see it. Pashyati, both the past and the future becomes known to them. These are the effects of following the yamas scrupulously. What happens if the yogi follows niyamas scrupulously? The first niyama is shaucha. If shaucha is of two types, we have seen that. The external shaucha and the internal. The most important, of course, is the antarshuddhi, but the bahya shuddhi is equally important. And both of them, when perfected, give two different results altogether. The external shaucha gives rise to shauchat swanga jugupsa parair samsargaha. That is the sutra, the 40th sutra. Shauchat swanga swanga jugupsa parair samsargaha. From the shauch or the purity externally, when followed to the T, one gets disgust about one's own body as well as bodies of others. Anasakti, gruna for one's own body being imperfect, unclean vehicle. What is the meaning of this? We all love our body. In fact, we call ourselves as our body. For a yogi, he is more getting acquainted with the Chaitanya, with the consciousness, and he finds this matter vesture, the instrument to express the consciousness, too inadequate, too dirty, too small, inferior. And that is how he starts feeling gruna towards the body. Please do not take gruna as negative connotation. It is a positive connotation. What happens when you see a diamond in the hands of a shepherd? The poor fellow doesn't know what the diamond is. And suppose, and why take this example? We can take a better example. In one of the royal households of a country, I don't need to name them, the rich state, the prince of such state, there was a boy found by an American reporter who was taking a stone in the hand and was trying to hammer a Rolex watch. Because they were rich, the boy prince was trying to use the stone to hammer a Rolex watch. And this was seen by an American reporter as indulgence of wealth. Now, what happened here? He did not know how expensive the Rolex is. Plus, he thought he has a lot of money, so he misused the Rolex. So it was painful to watch for the reporter. So very expensive thing being misused or abused gives rise to a pain to us, disgust to us. So imagine such an inexpensive, such an amulya thing at Chaitanya being used by this body. A yogi feels this body to be too inferior to carry the consciousness. And he develops swanga jugupsa, hatred towards the body. And that is why for the external body, he is having a gruna that is called kaya avadyadarshi. And not only of his body, others' bodies also. If you read the biography of Guru of Mahatma Gandhi, Rajachandraji, in his writings, he has written about women body. Mind well, he was not against women, but he was talking about attraction of a man towards women. So he was married forcibly by his family members, but he was never interested in consuming the marriage. So at that point of time, he has written about women body, that is his own wife's body, not to condemn the wife, but the body part only. He was saying it is one of the dirtiest things that I can ever think of. He was not despising his wife. He was not despising women at all. He was despising the thought of a man calling a woman's body as the most desirable thing. Tukaram Maharaj, whenever he was a beautiful damsel was sent to seduce him, and Tukaram Maharaj looked at her and said that Rukmini, how did you come here? The reason is The lady at that point of time, all ladies in the world are either Rukmini or they are not existing. So Swanga Jugupsa and Parer Samsargaha, both, that means my own body as well as other bodies, are useless carriers of the consciousness, is the feeling that one gets after Shaucha. Later on, after the Atma Darshanam, this hatred gets converted into the Prema. So even the hateful also gets loved, but that is a much later stage. We are still at Yamaniyama. Unfortunately, this is called Nimnatar Adhikari. Mind well, we are at a still lower level. It finds it sounds too high for us, but for Yoga Shastra, this is a lower level. So this is called as Apara Vairagya. What is Apara Vairagya? What is the definition of Vairagya in Viveka Chudamani? Dehadi Brahma Paryante Yanitye Bhogavastuni. That is how the Vairagya has been. Tad Vairagya Jihasa. Shankaracharya says, when you feel disgust from body up to Brahma, that means it starts from body. This is what happens to yogi, because yogi is a kaya swabhava loki. He is keen on discarding his body. And so much so that after some time, we have examples in the history of Jnaneshwar Maharaj, of Manik Prabhu, who voluntarily abdicted their bodies. There are a number of examples in Puranas. Why the body? Because the body was not meant for any use thereafter. And that is why Bahya Shuchi leads to this. But when Antar Shuchi is perfected, the 41st Sutra tells us, Sattva Shuddhi Saumanasya Ekagre Indriya Jaya Atma Darshana Yogatvani Cha. The external purity of body leads to rise of a feeling that the body is too inadequate and too imperfect an instrument. But the internal purity, Chitta Shuddhi, internal Antar Shuddhi, the yogi starts getting one by one higher qualities in him. The first is there is Sattva Shuddhi. What is Sattva Shuddhi? There is a predominance of Sattva Guna in the body. The Tamo Guna almost disappears. What is the sign of Tamo Guna disappearing? A yogi starts sleeping for a very little time. Compare this with Gurudeva's lifestyle. 2 hours of sleep, enough for the remaining full work of 22 hours. From where did this come? Brahmacharya Sthita Virya Labha, one. And second is Sattva Shuddhi. And yet you don't forget anything because the memory has become sharp. Sattva Shuddhi. So Abhyantar Shuddhi or Antar Shuddhi brings Buddhi Shuddhi or Sattva Guna, Sattva Shuddhi. Then Sattva Shuddhi, remember Sattva Guna is cheerfulness. If you want to be cheerful, you cannot be pepped up, as they call it in the modern language, by anyone else around you. You have to pep up yourself. And to pep up yourself, the trick is very simple. Be more into Sattva Guna, you will automatically feel cheerful. How do you remain in Sattva Guna? Follow whatever Sattva Guna requires and discard the Rajo Guna and the Tamo Guna. In fact, there is nothing you need to do to inculcate Sattva Guna. Just discard the Raja and Tama. This is bound to grow up. How do you discard Raja and Tama Guna? For Tamo Guna, ask the mind, remind the mind not to get into the sloth, the darkness, the laziness. So get out of the sloth and the laziness. Get up early in the morning. Be cheerful, go for the exercise. Keep your body and the physical health in the utmost condition. Let your body feel the normalcy. Health is not defined as absence of disease. It's a stupid definition. Health is a feeling to be enjoyed. Be healthy. When you sit, sitting itself should give you pleasure. When you walk, walking should give you pleasure. Never ever in the daytime, you should be feeling drowsy because you have eaten too much, because you have eaten wrong food, the heavy food, the non-vegetarian food, the pungent food. That is not a sattvic ahar. Eat sattvic ahar, go for falahar. Eat meat ahar, limited food, and be always on your toes, energetic. And that's possible. We can actually see that in our daily life. All the yama niyamas that we are describing, highest level, the yogis enjoy the highest things, the rewards. But that doesn't mean we cannot enjoy it. We may not follow the yama niyama to the highest level, but whatever level we follow, we shall get the results of that level itself. And that is why the cheerfulness, saumanasya, rajoguna, tell your mind not to be jittery. Look at you when you get up from the bed. So many thoughts come to the mind. Oh, today what should I do? I should be meeting him. And stop, wait, hold on. What is the need to think about the office? You have just got up from your bed. It's 4:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. There's nothing you can do about the office. Brush away all those thoughts. Keep yourself to a central thought. It's morning. Let me remember Gurudeva and get up from my bed. Once you get up from your bed, start doing each activity with complete concentration. There are people who jump out of bed. No need, sir. Be slow, with poise, with calmness. Start doing your activity with full mind into it. You'll see the mind is racing to different thoughts. Bring it back. Put it into the activity that you're doing. Brush yourself nicely. Be in the brushing when you're brushing. See the flow of the water. See the water flows at a very steady speed. No wastage of the water. At the same time, not too much of sound of the water. No splashing of the water outside the basin. And the splash of the water is felt on the cheeks when it is sprayed in the morning, and you realize it's a morning. The eyes are clean. You feel refreshed. Come out, think positive, have sattvic vichar. The mind always races what to do, what to do, what to do. No, you should have a discipline in our life. Every minute should be properly drawn. This is 5:30. I'm on the ground with my exercise kit because this next 1 hour, I'm going to have my exercise. Start jogging, running, gives ample time to think. While jogging, we think about what should be done in the office. Please discard the thought. This is my jogging time. My thought should be now focused on what was taught in Patanjali Yoga Sutra. What did I read in Bhagavad Gita? Keep remembering about the thoughts. Look at the trees, look at the flowers, enjoy the colors of the flowers, take the breeze in your stride, and be happy that you're putting your body into a tough exercise to make it fine and fit. All this leads to doing away with tamoguna and rajoguna, leading to sattva shuddhi or saumanasya, cheerfulness. Whenever the sattva guna is there, then and then only the concentration can come. So ekagrata. Mind well, sir, there is no way you can concentrate on anything in this world if you do not have sattvikata with you. In fact, more the concentration, more the sattvikta in you. And how the sattvikta will come to you, how the sattoguna will come to you, if you're constantly scheming, constantly getting angry, constantly getting greedy, constantly getting involved. Stop all those undue contacts that we try to create. Stop the parties. It's a waste of energy time. They increase rajoguna and tamoguna. All intoxicating drinks should be completely out of the system, out of the life, because they increase tama. Don't stupefy yourself with anything like drugs or alcohol. Be less dependent on this world. Don't collect many people around you. No one is of any use. Mind well, sir, your parents are also of no use. The real parents are only the saintly people. We don't have any one of them in the life form around us. It is so rare to get a saintly person around you. So be with yourself and create your mandiyadi, your friends in your mind. Who are our friends? Who are our guides? Who are our fathers? Tapovan Maharaj, Vivekananda, Mahatma Gandhi, Ramakrishna Paramahans, Gurudeva, Shivananda Swami. Keep them in your head. Krishnananda Swami, keep them in your head. Shankaracharya, and always keep talking to them. This is our group. This is our socializing. This is our partying. We party on the thoughts. We party on the scriptures. Mind well, Moksha Shastra Jnana, very important aspect called Shastra Krupa, is possible only when these friends are around. We don't need the people who come to advise us about which share you should invest your money in. That is at a time when you're there for 1 hour in your office. Please do not bring them. Once your essential things, keep essential at essentials. Don't grow in parivar. Don't waste your energy in talking too much. Don't waste your energy in thinking uselessly. Just has to be conserved. And that is why first the purity of buddhi, rajatama malinya, is washed by sattvodreka, leading to prasanna mana. Prasanna mana is complacent mind. That leads to ekagrata. Then you get indriya jaya, sanyatendriyata. And only when you have a pure mind, concentration ability, indriya jaya, then the atma darshanam can come. That is why sattva shuddhi saumanasya ekagre indriya jaya atma darshana yogatvani cha. What happens when somebody practices santosha to the highest order? A yogi, when he follows scrupulously the niyama of santosha, he gets unparalleled sukham. Santosha anuttama sukhalabha. From the contentment, santosha, comes superior felicity. What is anuttama sukhalabha? What is anuttama sukhalabha? Laukika sukha is what we know. Think about this. What are the types of sukhas we have enjoyed so far? Maybe a nice dish in some restaurant or the home. Maybe this, maybe that. The highest of the sukha is, of course, the Maithunananda. That is what Manushananda knows, height. That's it. We do not know any sukha greater than Maithunananda. And mind well, all these are called experiential pleasure, laukika sukha. It requires you, another person or another object, and the interaction. So you and the object and the interaction, you and the another person and the interaction. This is must for the laukika sukha. But divya sukha is available only in Devaloka. In Devaloka, the sukham is available by itself to you. You don't need to really interact with anything as an object or subject to get the sukham. That is called Deva Loka Sukham or Divya Sukham. But the sukham arising from Trushnakshaya, the sukham arising from desirelessness, is so great that Laukika and Paralaukika, Paralaukika means Deva, Deva Yoni. Laukika and a Paralaukika Sukham is said to be not even Shodasha Kala, 1/16 of the Santosha. In fact, in Vayu Purana, there is a shloka. Yaccha Kama Sukham Loke. That means in the Laukika Sukha. Yaccha Divyam Mahat Sukham. In Devaloka Mahat Sukham. Trushna Kshaya Sukhasya Ete Na Arhataha Shodashi Kalam. Arhati means cannot equal. Even 1/16 of this sukham that a yogi gets cannot be compared to the sukham of the devas. Forget about the laukika sukha. That is why all the Sufis talk about a condition called mast. Mast means intoxicated by God. God intoxication. And this God intoxication or must is the aim. They are basking in this. In Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's place, Dakshineshwara, there were many sadhus. One of the sadhu used to always stay inside a hut meditating. But every morning he used to come out for some time. He would open the door, look at the sky, and laugh to the heart's content and go inside. When Tapovan Maharaj was doing Parivrajaka Vrata and going upwards in the north, closer to the Punjab, he found one person in the scorchy heat of Punjab, lying on a hot stone and laughing to the heart's content. People's skin was burning, so they were not going into the sunlight, and he was sleeping bare, naked, and laughing. Tapovan Maharaj went and tried to help him, and he said, "Hey, go." It was much later Tapovan Maharaj realized, after his own realization, that the anandam, the sukham that he was getting was because of Trishna Akshaya Sukham. And that is why Santosha, if is perfected, can lead to this sukham, which is even beyond Divya Sukham or the Sukham of the Devas. What happens when austerities are completed? Tapas. We have seen in Puranas that the so-and-so Rishi did the tapas and then he got powers. We always thought that as stories. Mind well, Patanjali Yoga Sutra is a factual account of what happens to a yogi. There is no 1% or 0.1% iota of exaggeration in the sutras. It is Satya Vachan of Patanjali Maharaj. Kayendriya Siddhir Shuddhikshaya Tapasaha. Kaya Indriya Siddhi Ashuddhikshaya Tapasaha. Tapasa leads to Ashuddhi Kshaya. So the Antakaran, when it becomes Shuddha, by removing Ashuddhi Rupa Avarana Rupi Mala, yogi obtains Kaya Siddhi. Kaya Siddhi, physical powers, and Indriya Siddhi, powers of the Indriyas. When Parinishthita Tapaha, when somebody gets established in tapas, what happens? It causes the destruction of mala, ashuddhita in the chitta, and that leads to two types of siddhis. One of kaya. We all know there are 8 siddhis, ashtadha siddhi. Anima, you have ability to become as small as bacteria. Mahima, you can become huge like the Hanuman when he went to Sri Lanka. Anima, Mahima, Laghima, you can be as light as a feather. Garima, you can be so heavy that you cannot be moved by the most powerful person. The story of Bhima and Hanumana. The other 4 siddhis are called prapti. Prapti means you are reachable to anything in the world, ability to reach anywhere. Prapti, prakamya. Any desire gets fulfilled. Kalpataru, prakamya. Ishitva, everything. Panchama Bhautik is under your control. And Vashitva, you can subdue anybody. The most powerful will come, like the way Changdev Maharaj came to defeat in the arguments Jnaneshwar Maharaj. But moment he saw him, Vashitva, he immediately surrendered. So out of these 8 siddhis, the first 4 are available on tapasa, not the next 4. Mind well. So Anima, Mahima, Laghima, Garima. becoming small, becoming big, becoming heavy, becoming light. These are called kaya or physical siddhis. This siddhis, in fact, we are going to have the third pada of Patanjali Maharaj, which is Vibhuti Pada. It is entirely dedicated to siddhis. What are the powers that yogi can enjoy? We are going to study that, of course, when we enter into the third pada. Some of them are mind-boggling, and it is going to be a complete surprise for us when we see that particular those sutras. But in one of those sutras, which is basically the first sutra of the fourth pada, Patanjali Maharaj has written that Janma Aushadhi Mantra Tapaha Samadhijaha Siddhaya. Siddhis come from Janma, Aushadhi, Mantra, Tapa, and Samadhi. 5 ways you can get Siddhi. Now we are studying Tapasa, so these Siddhis are being told as outcome of Tapa. But it can come from Mantra also. It can come from Aushadhi, mentioned in Vedas. It can come from Samadhi, of course. And it can come from Janma, means you can be born. Now, who are those who are born with the Siddhis itself? The Avataras. At the smallest, at the most tender age also, one can exhibit Siddhis. So, Kaya Siddhis you get by practicing tapas. What about Indriya Siddhis? A yogi, when he gets a Siddhi of the Indriyas, let us take each Indriya. When he takes the Siddhi through the tapas of the eyes, he is able to see everywhere. Now the obstacles of mountains and trees do not matter. So the yogi is able to see as clear as you and me, even the most distant thing in the farthest place. Vivekananda, when he asked a question to Ramakrishna Thakur, that Thakur, have you seen God? Have you seen Kali? And the answer given by Ramakrishna was, not only I have seen her more clearer than I'm seeing you right now. So the clairvoyance, and this I am talking of seeing the God. What to talk about the immaterial things or the material things in this universe? So clairvoyance. Similarly, if the karna, if this indriya becomes powerful, a yogi is able to hear even a drop of a pin at miles away. So karna. What to talk of the normal nada? A yogi is able to hear even the anahata nada. That is why when Krishna Bhakta reaches the pinnacle of the bhakti, the Venu nada, he is able to hear even when he is sitting amongst us. And then he keeps dancing and keeps nodding his head because he is hearing a distant voice of Krishna's flute. That is possible because of mastery over the auditory part or the karna. Sparsha. The sparsha jnana becomes so developed in the yogi that anything that he touches, he can actually feel that touch. What is the meaning of this? Every day morning, Maharaj, maybe we are doing Deva Puja and washing the gods. But when we touch the god, we can see the metal in our hand because the murti is made up of the metal. So our sparsha goes to the metal. So my sparsha gives me jnanam of the metal of that particular murti. A yogi, when he contemplates and starts doing the worship of Ram or Krishna, he actually touches the skin of the thigh of Krishna. The Balakrishna, when it is being bathed by a yogi, it is actually like bathing a live Balakrishna because the sparsha becomes so real. So the prowess of sparsha comes. Grana. He can smell from a distance. That is the reason why many a times when the Guru also is at a distant place, the Shishya does his arati and uses the incense sticks. The smell is felt by none else than the Guru. And he becomes happy that the Shishya is doing my arati. So is the story with most of the pujas that they do. Then comes the Jivva. They can test anything, anywhere, any place. So all the Indriya Shakti become Jagruta because of the tapasa. And then what happens with the Swadhyaya? The last niyama, if it is perfected, Swadhyaya Dishta Devata Samprayogaha. Swadhyayat Ishta Devata Samprayogaha. What is Swadhyaya? Moksha Shastra Adhyayanam Tatha Pranava Ucharanam. Is Swadhyaya. We have already seen Swadhyaya when we studied Niyama. If Swadhyaya is perfected, then yogi gets in touch with the Devatas, Rishis and Siddhas. Sometime back, somebody had posted about Gurudeva, how he let one of his lay disciples meet Hanumana. How did Gurudeva know that Hanumana was there and is going to be there at that point of time, or he will be here? That is Deva, Rushayaha, Siddhascha, Swadhyaya Shilasya Darshanam Gachanti, Karyecha Asya Vartanti Iti. Yogi is able to see Deva, Rushi and Siddha, and they are more keen to meet him. Swadhyaya Shilasya Darshanam Gachanti. Because the gods, the Ishta Devata, Sri Samartha Ramadas, had a darshan of Sri Ram. What do you mean by having a darshan of a Devata? Then he had a darshan of Hanuman. We consider that as some Kapola Kalpita Purana Katha. No, sir. A yogi is actually able to see the Devas, the Rishis, and the Siddhas. And not only see them, he can prarthayate, he can pray them for some work, karyeshu. They come for the work, they can work for them. And that is why Pranava Japa, if it is Siddha Omkar or Moksha Shastra Adhyayanam, the Devata Gana, the Mantra Drashtar, that means Rishi, such as Vasishtha. That is why many a times we get surprised. How is it that even now in modern times, somebody had darshan of Vasishtha, somebody had darshan of Vishwamitra, somebody had darshan of some other Rishi? This is because of the power that develops in case of the high level yogi. And the last of the Ishwara Pranidhana, the last of the Niyama. What happens if it is perfected? Samadhi Siddhir Ishwara Pranidhana. Samadhi Siddhihi Ishwara Pranidhana. Once yogi develops Ishwara Samarpita Bhava. Ishwara Pranidhana means giving everything to the Lord. The karma is completely dedicated to the Lord. Once yogi develops Ishwara Samarpita Sarva Bhava, then Samadhi is achieved easily. Once yogi achieves this Samadhi, then yogi can know anything situated in any Deha, Kala, Desha. A yogi becomes competent to know anything and everything in all the Dehas, all the Kalas, and all the Deshas, which is called as a Yogi Buddhi, Yoga Jnana, Yogi Buddhi, also called as Yatartha Jnana, to illustrate anything in the world. Sarvam ipsitam avatatham janati. Whatever he desires, he comes to know. Swami Vivekananda's biography, if read carefully, He has spoken on so many subjects. One of the most weird subject that he was asked to speak without any notice was about the sterling silver price in Switzerland. Now imagine sterling silver price to a yogi. Current trends in silver sterling price in Switzerland was the subject given to him, and yet he spoke for 15 minutes on it, and with a depth that even the one who spoke was a regular trader, he was perplexed. Sarvam ipsitam avatatham janati. And mind well, the samadhi that is written here or mentioned here is the samadhi of sampradnyat variety, not asampradnyat. Because asampradnyat samadhi is out of yama and niyama. The yamas and niyamas do not reach there. That is a much and a very high state. So samadhi siddhir ishwar pranidhana. In ishwar pranidhana, samadhi becomes sthita. So that is how 5 niyamas are there, 5 yamas are there, 5 niyamas are there. What are yamas and what are niyamas? We saw. If they are perfected, what happens, what powers come to, or what are the changes that happen in a yogi, that we saw. And now that we have seen yama and niyama, we are all fit now to travel to the another level, and that is asana. So we will start our discussions on asana. Now, because yama niyama is over, asana will start from the next session. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Hari Om Sanjay. We will wait for some questions.
Hari Om Sanjay ji. Rajendran here. This Brahmacharya Pradishtaya Veera Labhaha and Abharigraha Stairya Janma Gadanda Sambodha, these two things. Actually, when we compare these two, our Dharmartha Kama Moksha Purushartha Chadushtaya, these ideas are not contradicting, or we need kama and krodha, kama and artha to a certain extent to lead a normal life. So how do we interpret this?
Chatur Purushartha, Purvidha Purushartha, Dharma Artha Kama is progression from a point A to point B. The first important need there is to understand the dharma, and because we are having this body, dehadhari, we will have to do something for the maintenance of this particular deha till we achieve the moksha. During this period, the kama that is mentioned there is a desire. This desire can be of many types. The vikara is also a desire, and Shuddha Sattvika Vichara is also a desire. So, Kama, when Mukshata is the kind of Kama that is expected. The Kama that takes you away from Mukshata, the fourth Purushartha, is not expected. Mind well, when tapasa is being done by the yogi, is he not desiring that I should not be getting any other desire in my mind, any other thought in my mind? I want this, I want to be in a state of sattvikata. What is want? Want itself means desire. This is called a samvadi brahma. You use a thorn to remove a thorn. So you use a desire, a good desire, to kill a bad desire, and then give up the good desire also. So that is why when we are talking about Kama, for example, you are a Grahastha. Why you are a Grahastha? Because your previous punya is not enough to become a brahmachari and then a sannyasi. So you have, because you had desires in the past, Lord has made you, compelled you to get married. The very fact that I am married in Grahastha means my desires, vasanas are still there. Otherwise, why would Lord make me marry? Now that you have the desire, what you do is you restrict your desire to one person, do the Grahastha, use those vikaratmak desire to shift slowly to vicharatmak desires, a bad desire to be replaced by a good desire, and then good desire to be sublimated. Yama Niyama is at a level of sublimation of desires. Although it is called Nimnatar Adhikari in Yoga Sutra, it is something too high for us. But yoga requires a movement from this level to a further higher level. Because after Yama Niyama, the next level, Madhyama Adhikari, which is called Kriya Yoga, a person is completely desireless there. Because we know, we have seen different levels of Vairagya. See, at the end, Vairagya to the highest extent is required to enter into the final state of Samadhi. So it is the gradation that we are talking. There is no contradiction whatsoever. For example, a limited indulgence in sex is allowed. Only with your wife allowed. These are all nothing else but the aberrations at a lower level. Any contact of the mind with the world is bound to fetch you down because of the sanskaras that it may create. So it is an absolute criteria in yoga. However, at our level, we cannot follow it. So what we do? We do parisankhya vidhi. So kama, whatever kama I have, because of my prarabdha, I will try to exhaust. I will not create new kama, new desires in the mind. I shall see that my desires are purer and purer. This is called fight against the kama. And once the fight against the kama is done properly, then the artha is proportionate to that. If a kama is greedy to make money, then you will realize artha, which is again a money. But if the kama is purer, a purer desire to obtain the Lord, then the artha will be sattvikata. Vittam tenam vinodaya chittam. Vitta will now change. So only when, and all the, both the kama and the artha are supposed to go lead you where? Mumukshata. If I'm greedy about something, if I'm involved in the sexual activities, so my kama will not let me progress towards the mumukshata, because I have to do the complete purushartha. And purushartha, because you have a purusha body, purishayate, because you are embodied person, embodied because of your previous prarabdha because of your karmashya, that means you have to do vasana virechana. The very fact that we got married is because of our earlier vasanas. There are so many who got born, simply became brahmacharis. Why Gurudeva did not marry? It was not destined. It was in his last birth. It was, he had come because so many things were perfected in the past births. So there is no contradiction of any kind. What we are seeing is the history of a person who has already scaled half the Mount Everest. And who is studying it? People who are at the bottom of the Mount Everest. So it is again in a relative sense, we'll have to see this. So that is why the perfection of tapasa that we were talking, do we see that in our daily life? No, because it is meant at a higher level. But this is the progress, and this is the way it is going to go. Hari Om.
Hari Om, that is clear. Thank you.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji.
Hari.
We talk of, the last time I think we had asked the same tapas and Ishwar Pranidan at Nimma Adhikari and then at the Kriya Yogi level also. So, you can just share what might just be the difference.
Yes, the fact is, Yama Niyama is a person who has decided, let us take it an analogy. Somebody who is in the whirlpool of the water in a river is a person like us, constantly getting tossed by the currents of the water, which is nothing else but the samsara. A Nimnatar Adhikari, the one who is trying to practice Yamanama, which we studied now, is the one who is trying to come. He has now already left the whirlpool and has started swimming towards the bank. Moment he is coming closer to the bank, he becomes Madhya Adhikari. Because he has perfected now the art of swimming, it is sure that he will go forward. However, when he is coming to the bank, there is something called holding onto the bank and getting out of the water, which is quite a difficult phenomena. So we need somebody there who can hold your hands and pull you up. Now, Madhyama Adhikari Kriya Yoga is the one who is closer to the bank, and moment he reaches to the bank, he becomes Uttama Adhikari. Now, Uttama Adhikari is the one who is taking his last jump out of the water. And that last jump out of water is the last jump out of Prakruti. Imagine from the whole manifestation, you are going out permanently. And that is something too difficult, because till the time you are at the bank, you are still in the water. So being in the water and to get out of the water is a very difficult thing. Being in the Prakruti and yet trying, because you are made up of Prakruti. So being in Prakruti and getting out of Prakruti is very difficult. That is where a guru comes into the picture, or Ishwara comes into the picture according to the Yoga Sutras. So Nimnatar Adhikari, so the one who is no Adhikari is still in the whirlpool. Nimnatar Adhikari decides to get out of the whirlpool, but still water is there. So he's swimming. He becomes Madhyama Adhikari because he has come out of the whirlpool, but still in water. After Madhya Adhikari swims and comes to the almost to the bank, he becomes Uttama Adhikari. In Uttama Adhikari, a very little thing is developed, but some of them will hold on to the bank and keep staying there. This is called Prakruti Laya. We have seen that. The one who has mastered the art of swimming but has not come out of the water is Deva. And the yogi or the guru or the siddha or the Brahmavit is the one who has jumped out of the water. That is how the levels are there. Perhaps this analogy can help in understanding. Hari Om.
Hari Om. So this is very clear. But my question was, we talk of the same tapas and Ishwar Pranidhan at Yamaniyama, and we talk, the definition of a Kriya Yogi also includes these same words, right? So
There is
how does the difference? Yeah, that is.
The difference is up to the asanas, dhyana dharana and pratyahar, these three are pronounced in case of a Kriya Yogi. Because the previous ones are already practiced, but he still practices them for the sake of maintenance. Let us take analogy. Yama Niyama is earning the jewels from the market. After that is earned, then you are supposed to keep it in a box and protect it. So what the Kriya Yogi does is, he repeats Yama Niyama for the sake of maintenance. He has already obtained the jewel. But what he is doing is, he is transacting with the jewels into the another market. So the Yama Niyama he continues to do, but it is for the maintenance stake. It is like how Gurudeva was worshipping Hanuman. Why was he worshipping? He was already a Siddha. No. The treasure has to be carefully protected. This is what the Kriya Yogi does. But his active component, he puts on Dhyana Dharana and Samadhi part. Pratyahar Dhyana Dharana is prominent in the life of Kriya Yogi. So first, Yama Niyama, two things completed, they are to be only brushed every now and then. But more focus is on the remaining one. After Kriya Yogi does even masters that also, he becomes Uttama Adhikari. Now the Uttama Adhikari will brush everything once in a while just to shine it, but focus on Samadhi. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji, we're waiting if anyone else has questions.
If so no one has, I'll just ask one more. When we talk of ekagrata in terms of a yogi, it is focus and moving away from all thoughts, etc. Right? But we have, if specifically in the Western world, right, there is a lot of focus, on maybe there are, scientists or even sportsmen or even who are able to generate that level of focus, but not necessarily in the yogi sense. Their lifestyles and everything are completely different. So how do they manage that without disassociating from the world?
See, when we talk about ekagrata, even you are doing it in your daily life. We all are doing in your life. That is the reason why we are one of the elevated people in the society, highly educated, meaning what? Our concentration power was definitely better than those who are manual workers. Because the buddhi in our case was more sattvic compared to a labor class. That is why we were able to concentrate more on the studies that we were doing. Now imagine somebody when he takes a vocation of focusing on one particular thing, he does it with a purpose. When your purpose, why you talk about the scientist in the Western world? What about a lover? About his fiancée, don't you think he is concentrating? What about a thief? The people who do this heist into highly secure places and they steal the things right in front of the security guards and everything. Don't you think it requires concentration? It all requires concentration. The purpose, one, and two, for the object achievement. What is the result that you want to achieve? Now imagine when you're trying to find out how two molecules react with each other in a neuroexcitatory state. So you're focusing only on central nervous system, on a neuron, on a particular two molecules, and you're studying and studying and studying and studying. You are repeating. This is called abhyas. Now they are getting this ekagrata by abhyas, repeating the same thing with the theme of seeing a limited thing. Now the question is, imagine whatever the scientist does, he has something to rest his laurels on and then move forward. Somebody has researched something, he wants to take the research forward. So he has something to rest upon. What a yogi is doing is, he has nothing to rest upon. Only on the heard knowledge, he is trying to reach there. So difference between a scientist and a yogi is, a scientist tries to reach the peak with the help of a rope. A yogi reaches the peak without the help of any implement. So it is so difficult. And of course, the target is also very high. The results and rewards are also very high. Process is the same. Concentration, without concentration, world is impossible to run. Only thing is we have flitting concentration. We concentrate for a very minuscule period of time. Higher the concentration, better the results. Highest the concentration, best the results. And upon what we are concentrating and what is the purpose of concentration, that is more important. A research scientist does not forget all his manly activities or humanly activities. He eats, he is interested in eating, he is interested in taking a break. So there are a lot of diversions of the mind. Only when he is on the work, for the period of the work, he focuses. A yogi makes it a continuous habit so that it becomes sahajavastha. That is the difference. Hari Om.